the CAQ certainly supports the PCAOB's intention to modernize and strengthen auditing standards related to the auditor's consideration of a company's non-compliance with laws and regulations, including fraud. But any update should be focused on being risk-based and really focus the auditor on that risk assessment relative to a company's non-compliance.
Joining me today is Dennis McGowan, Vice President, Professional Practice and Anti-Fraud Initiatives with the Center for Audit Quality. Dennis, thank you so much for joining us.
Great, thanks for having me.
Now, last year, the PCAOB issued a proposal that would fundamentally change the way that audits are conducted. Could you give us an overview of the non-compliance with laws and regulations proposal?
Sure. So I would say, in my opinion, you mentioned fundamental change. I mean, this is probably one of the most significant proposals from the PCAOB since their concept release on mandatory firm rotation. And so, the CAQ certainly supports the PCAOB's intention to modernize and strengthen auditing standards related to the auditor's consideration of a company's non-compliance with laws and regulations, including fraud. But any update should be focused on being risk-based and really focus the auditor on that risk assessment relative to a company's non-compliance. So the proposed requirements would include the auditor being required to identify through inquiry and other procedures laws and regulations with which non-compliance could reasonably have a material effect on the financial statements, assessing and responding to risks of material misstatement arising from NOCLAR, identifying whether there is information indicating noncompliance has or may have occurred, and evaluating and communicating when the auditor identifies or otherwise becomes aware of noncompliance with laws and regulations, including fraud, that has or may occurred. I'd say historically, the prehistoric 2 CPA board members, when this rule was proposed, did not support the proposal of this standard. I think that their statements around why they weren't supportive resonated with a lot of the stakeholders that I engaged with.
And on March 6th, the PCAOB hosted a virtual public roundtable to discuss constituent feedback on the NOCLAR proposal. What themes do you think emerged from participants at that roundtable?
To me, I had 3 takeaways really from the roundtable. I think the first being that auditors are willing to do more with respect to NOCLAR. I think what auditors are looking for, as well as other stakeholders in the financial reporting ecosystem, is the objective of doing more. And I think that there was a lot of discussion in the first 2 panels of the roundtable that made it very clear to me that auditors are willing to do more with respect to indirect laws that have an non-compliance with a particular law and regulation have an indirect effect on the financial statements. I think there's a view by some stakeholders that auditors aren't doing anything with that category of non-compliance today. And I think the remarks during the roundtable demonstrated to me that auditors are already doing things with respect to non-compliance that falls into that bucket. And so I think some clarity around the objective of doing more with respect to NOCLAR would be helpful in kind of determining what is the problem we're trying to solve and what behavior are we trying to elicit with changes to the standards that's going to help solve that problem. So I think auditors are willing to do more. What was one takeaway? I think also there was definitely alignment, I think, from all stakeholders that auditors should be able to start with understanding management's process around compliance. And I think that was something positive to hear, because I do think that initially when we were all reading the proposal and interpreting it, I think there was a real concern that it felt like what was being proposed was something separate and apart from what management does today and is not necessarily considering maybe the very robust compliance program a company may have today. And so I think that it was clear investors are not looking for auditors to do something that management isn't already having to do first. I think my third takeaway too was, the PCAOB should really repropose this standard. It is on their agenda to be adopted in 2024. I think that based on the discussion at the roundtable, the varying different views that were expressed, I think that there really needs to be continued dialogue. I don't think the problem's going to be solved in one roundtable.
And finally, what are some of the other projects that the PCAOB has on its agenda?
Right now, on their short-term agenda, which are those projects where the PCAOB staff expect to make some sort of recommendation in the next 12 months. We've got 4 expected proposals around attestation standards, going concern, engagement performance metrics, and substantive analytical procedures. And then we've also got 4 projects where we expect adoption, and that would be quality control, NOCLAR, AS1000 or general responsibilities of the auditor, and technology-assisted analysis. And so I would say of those projects on the short-term agenda, folks I think are already paying attention to NOCLAR beyond the audit profession. I think the other 2 to be looking for from a proposal perspective would be going concern. I think it'll be interesting to see what gets proposed there, and so I think that all stakeholders should be paying attention to what's in that proposal. And then I also think the firm and engagement performance metrics is another one where stakeholders, beyond the audit profession may want to be paying attention to what's in that proposal.